right, viewers are now moving into our conversation this morning. We're going to get things started off with the Assemblyman for Bethel New Grange, Pastor Terance Baynes, and of course, he's also the Secretary of Community Development, Youth Development, and Sports. So, good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, Kandace, and thank you for the opportunity. Good morning to all the viewers and listeners of the Updates program. I am happy to be here as always.
All right, so this morning, for the better part of this morning, we're going to be speaking about what's been happening in your electoral district. Just last Monday, we had a town hall meeting that rolled into your area, and there's quite a few things that came out of it. So it was very interesting.
Yes,
I think all the town hall meetings are very interesting.
Indeed.
And then I want to just start off there, just that, I mean, especially noting your portfolio in community development and so on, just the importance of this, going into the different communities and speaking to the people and hearing from them in this kind of a way. What has that been doing for you guys?
It certainly is a brave approach to governance and so on, because in a setup like that, you have the proceedings going live. You cannot coach people as to what they're going to raise or what they're going to say when they are given the opportunity and so on. Notwithstanding, I think all the meetings that we have had thus far have been good enough, very informative, and I suspect it has added value to the whole governance landscape, in my view. Bethel New Grange, as in all the communities in Tobago, we have interesting people in Bethel New Grange, and these sentiments come out in the meeting and so on. And but I think allowing people to have a voice on a consistent basis is something that we have to always encourage. There are times that some of the things that are said are not always encouraging. When I say encouraging, they're not always lofty for the area reps or even the government at times. But that is, I guess, part of the cut and thrust or the whole governance business and so on. But we are going to continue. We have perhaps, I think, about 2 or 3 more districts left, and then we're going to have a second round and may add a different kind of component, because one of the things that the Chief Secretary raised, and it is true, that we seem to miss a certain demographic. There are young people that come almost like toucanism, really, but to kind of get the core group of young people in a gathered space, I think we may have to maybe amend the approach and have some more targeted meetings informally, like a kind of block live kind of thing, to try and capture their views and so on, because that is also important.
Now, we had a criticism from the Prime Minister last night, and even some members of the PNM at a meeting that they had in Mason Hall, where they stated that these meetings are now becoming a platform for party support.
Well, the Prime Minister and others like him are entitled to a view. I mean, views are like noses, everybody has one, and nobody tells the Prime Minister and his government how to conduct their governance, so I don't know that we should pay any attention to that. That is just a view.
All right, good. And now getting into Bethel, now there were some concerns that were expressed primarily when it comes to the youth in the area. We know that Bethel had challenges, I would say, Bethel has...
all our communities have issues. There are some that are more accentuated than others, and the point I was making at the meeting in the video production is that every area rep has to try and be on the pulse of his or her district and then try to target your activities towards that. Since I came into this position, I have seen development and improvement. I think one of the missing components was a disconnect between the younger people and the area reps. You understand? So, I mean, I have done some work in trying to see if we can fix that disconnect and so on. And so you will find a lot of the activities, whether it be sport related, some of the social stuff, is aimed at targeting young people, helping to rebuild confidence in governance and in representation. It is not an overnight thing, surely. It is something that is going to take some time, because I believe the confidence in representation has deteriorated so badly, that people don't really trust area reps and so on. So you have to try to constantly engage, and you have to couple that engagement with activities, that can involve them and can bring some value to their lives wherever they are.
Now, one of your initiatives that got some commendations was that of the installation of the walking track. How was that been going, and then what are the plans that you have in place to expand on that?
Yes. Well, the entire, there is need for us to do some more work in and around the area where the basketball and netball take place. We have to try to put in some type of seating facility in that area. I have been approached by some to do some kind of landscaping seating on the northern side of the grounds and so on and all of that. So those are some of the considerations. Also, we are thinking about putting in a type of play park kind of thing on the western side. So, elders, well, not elders, older people, when they come to do their walks, they can have the kids in that area occupied as well. We hope to be able to put in some exercise equipment there and kind of have a blended thing. So we have the play area and the equipment for the kids, and kind of blend that in with some exercise stuff as well.
And how was that worked in terms of getting more of the young people in the community engaged
Yes.
and on a more positive track?
Well, what we have seen is, in terms of engagement of young people, sports is perhaps the most magnetic thus far. So the football, especially the basketball to a lesser extent, and so on, and even the netball, I was surprised at when we did the ball bash 1 and 2. I was surprised at the response, because you really don't hear enough about netball and what's happening with netball on the island, and so on. So that is one of the areas that I want to focus in. Another thing that I see is making waves and so on, is these all fours encounters. It is a thing, and so on. I don't know the game myself, but most people, young people and some of the older people, seem to be interested in that. So that is one of the things. In fact, it is in my mind, and we're still trying to work with it to do an all fours challenge coming up to before the Christmas time. That's that's in my mind. But sport really seems to be the most potent tool at present to kind of galvanize young people and so on. So we are contemplating what else we can do sports wise to bring our young people together and get them interested and so on.
Now, one of the things that was pointed out in that meeting that I found very interesting as well was that Mount Irving Bay Hotel, which is in your district, was heralded as that pioneer tourism product within the area.
Yes, it was.
And how as a community they might not have capitalized on it as much over the years. So what is his thinking now?
Well, first thing I have to say that Mount Irving is no longer in my district since they changed the demarcation.
Right.
Mount Irving is now in what they call Plymouth Blackrock. So Assistant Secretary Niall George, that's his area. But of course, Mount Irving has always been close to Bethel. It's emblematic of the community relating to a particular entity that has contributed to its development over the years. With the change of leadership and so on, ownership, I should say, of the facility, and the facility was left for some time and in a state of disrepair, and there's been different persons expressing interest to buy the facility. I know the THA is involved in some talks as to what we can do to perhaps have some kind of relationship in the restoration of Mount Irving to perhaps its former glory, you know. And we know that golf and golf-related activities is a lucrative exercise. So there is benefit in doing that. And also, it will bring a tremendous amount of lift to the surrounding communities, not just Bethel, but Blackrock and Buku and Mount Irving to some extent, and even Mount Pleasant to some extent. So that is a useful engagement, and we are just waiting to see what will be the final outcome from these conversations that are taking place as we speak with the THA and the owners.
Certainly, and then as you mentioned the golf course, because that came up at the meeting as well, because some of Tobago's best golf players are from Bethel.
Indeed.
So, you know, can you tell us a little bit more about, you know, what is the THA's thinking, especially because sport is under your portfolio, as to how are we going to, you know, improve golf in the communities and so on?
Well, the thing about it is that when you don't own a franchise, you can't dictate how the franchise operates. And so the conversation that we are having is hopefully that there could be some useful partnership, and there can be a kind of solidarity in terms of our objective for youth and sport development, golf more particularly in Tobago. You know, and so there is stuff happening over at the other golf course there in the Magdalena area. There are several golfing organizations in Tobago. I have just realized that in the last year, you know, and golf is an activity that is entered into at a very young age too. I was shocked when they sent me a message to say that my nephew, who is 7 years, is engaged in golf, and I really could not even relate because I've never seen him, but apparently they were teaching golf at the school, and it seems like the boy is good because he went to Trinidad and won the field. You understand? So and they were saying to me at that young age, the kind of ability that he has at that young age, that's supposed to be nurtured and all that kind of thing. So those are some of the things that we have to take an interest in. Tobago in general has produced a tremendous amount of excellent sports personality over the years. We may not have had a support system to push them over the top. You know, many would have to have left Tobago and gone elsewhere and so on and that kind of thing. But in terms of the foundation activity, and we have to be a little more deliberate. I have all confidence in my assistant, Mr. Clark, and the work that he's doing, and his interface with the sporting groups and so on, and all that we need to do to try and optimize the sports product that we deliver here in Tobago. So it's a work in progress, you know, and we have to be deliberate about it. And when we see these examples around, especially when they surprise you, you know, because, you know, we know that we have to do more, and we have to do it as soon as we can.
Yeah, and especially where, in terms of getting the Mount Irving Bay golf course up to par, because right now it's not very in the best of states.
Yes, and it's an expensive undertaking. It is an expensive to restore golf courses generally. I was told is a very expensive undertaking, and Mount Irving, because of the years that it has not been in use and so on, and of course the COVID time did not help, you know, it will take some doing, but it is not impossible.
And what's the conversation like between the THA and the Mount Irving Bay management to get the golf course back up and going?
Well, I because I am not one of the principals in sitting around the table with the actual conversation yet. You know, I don't want to be reckless to to try and get into what those conversations are at present. But suffice it to say, I can say that the interest is there and has been there for quite some time, and there's been an engagement at the level of the chief secretary and his office with the management and so on to see what can be the best engagement going forward, so that we can get the space up and have it provide the kind of service that it can, and to help not just the community but Tobago.
All right. Well, we're going to take a pause right there in this conversation, but viewers, please don't go anywhere because we'll be back right after this break. We are people in the Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversations this morning with the area representative for Bethel, New Grange, as we talk about what's going on in that community. So we are here with Secretary Assemblyman Terance Baynes, Pastor Terance Baynes. I don't know why your name slipped me for like a second.
Yeah, just pick one and go. You're gonna be all right.
Yes, lots of titles for this man.
Just pick one. It don't matter.
Yeah. So we're speaking about Bethel New Grange and just what's been happening in the community, especially what came out of the meeting that we had just about a week ago. And as you know, the THA has been going through the various communities, speaking to the districts and hearing from the community members themselves. Now, one of the things that was brought up too by some of your residents was that of farming, being able to access land and so on for farming. Is this something that you are looking at? What's happening?
Well, it's been a part of the conversation. The way Bethel, the village as is, on the northern edge of the village, there is some land there that belongs to, I believe, the Chinleys, and there's been a conversation about whether or not the THA can engage to have lands made available both for village expansion and also to engage in agriculture and that kind of thing. Now, of course, remember the land is private property. Although in the conversation it sounds as if the THA can just go and just take the land, take over the land kind of thing. That is how it may sound in the conversation, but really it's private property. And in terms of that engagement, we have to look in the larger scheme of things, the land holdings that the THA has, what kind of investment the THA can make in the purchase of land at this point, especially in the light of the fact in the larger economic landscape, we are treating with a kind of scarcity of funds and so on. And so all these things have to be put into the equation in making those decisions, because that estate is going to cost a substantial sum if we are to go in that direction. Now, there is on the landscape as well the hydroponics and all these things that have been done now, where you don't necessarily need large land spaces, where the science of agriculture can afford you the opportunity to engage in serious agriculture in smaller spaces, So that is something that we have to also take into consideration. What I have not seen yet, because in order for that to kind of take the route that you wanted, is a collective of persons who express this engagement, and we sit down with a plan, because if you're going to make that kind of investment, you would obviously have to have a plan as to what you want to see happen in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, and so on, as it relates to that. And so we have individuals who have done agriculture historically, some of the older people. I have not gotten the sense yet that much of the younger people as a collective interested in agriculture. That has not reached me yet, but certainly is a conversation that we will have, because all of us know how important this whole food security is, and not just for the island, but even for people's individual development and the economics of it, and that kind of thing. So those are things that must be important to us as well.
Okay. And now, moving on to just some of the other things that are happening within the community, or some things that were brought up, I should say, from the community. And of course, that's roads.
Yes.
Because I think that's like the number one request at every town hall meeting. We need certain roads fixed in Tobago.
But you know, if that is the question, to be fair, in 2021, leading up to the election, the first election, well, from say like about November, thereabout in 2020, right? $82 million plus was invested in the Bethel area for road and road infrastructure. 2020, right? And what we are dealing with now in large part is deterioration. We are dealing with trying to do fixes. I mean, you think about it, if you invest that amount of money in road infrastructure, Bethel especially, and some other communities did not have that luxury. We should not have to see the kind of breakdown and so on that is taking place in this particular district. So while I reached out to Secretary James, and as he was saying in the meeting, I sent him pictures and locations of all the potholes I could find in and around the district. But we have to be reasonable. Secretary James and his team, they don't have all the money in the world, and they have to look out for the rest of Tobago as well. So we have to exercise a level of patience. I know everybody want their roads and their potholes fixed immediately. But we have to exercise a little situational sensitivity as well. You know, we are dealing with the fallout of bad work in some places, and a lot of teaching money was invested in the work, and so now we have to go into the coffers monies that should be used for infrastructural development or genuine maintenance work, because some of the road infrastructure and so on is old, right? So there will be deterioration. So when the resource comes to the division of infrastructure, for instance, to try and treat with general maintenance work, and then we have not succeeded in doing the work, managing all the fallout from the rains last year, the October rains last year, and so on. There are still some places that Secretary James and his team have not been able to treat with yet. So yes, we have infrastructural issues, road issues in Bethel, New Grange, as with every other community in Tobago. And we have to try our best to be patient, you know, and treat with the reality as it is. The resources are being stretched thin. I mean, Secretary James is a magician of sorts in terms of how they elastify the resources to try and do, because they are doing exceptional work, all things being equal. They are doing exceptional work paving all over Tobago. You understand? And so we're going to continue to try and lobby and so on, and see how much we can get done and so on. But I am heartened that work is being done, you know, and work has to be done across the entire island of Tobago. And I hope that our people could have an appreciation for that, because they were there seeing the kind of money that was spent on infrastructure. Bethel, New Grange had roads paved, or roads that were supposedly paved, and all those kinds of things leading up to the election that other districts did not have. You understand? And we talking, as I said earlier, over $82 million was invested in road and road infrastructure in Bethel, New Grange. Well, at the time, Bethel, New Grange and Bethel, Mount Irving, from say about November, they're about 2020, you know, to 2021. So we're gonna keep at it. We're gonna keep at it.
You guys just came out of a retreat with the executive council, where you would have reprioritized the budget and set the trajectory for the next fiscal year. What roads were determined that is going to get some attention in the next fiscal year from that retreat?
Yes. Well, the entire Lowlands oil fields area, that is a number one priority. There are some roads in that Plymouth Road area. I can't remember the name of that place. It's a very interesting name over there. And there are some spaces in the Chief Secretary's constituency as well that require some attention. I mean, Kandace, all over Tobago, you know, there are road issues. There are road issues, but I think those and a couple others that were kind of accentuated in our minds that require some immediate attention when one considers the kind of traffic that moves through those areas and so on.
All right, now I want to kind of move away a little bit from just the Bethel community conversation to just some general things, and that has to do with, you know, this allegation coming from the Prime Minister that the government or the THA has been a little bit too hostile, too disrespectful, and so on in the way that they've been treating with their Trinidad counterparts. I want you to address that matter as I have.
But I mean, Kandace, the Prime Minister is not the most. Let me say this carefully. I don't think he is the most qualified person to make those kinds of statements, to be blunt. The Prime Minister is one of the most abrasive leaders that we have seen in the region. We have seen how he does his press conferences when he's asked questions and so on. And the question about the hostility between Trinidad and Tobago, he has to take responsibility for that too, because it is because of some of the things that he has done and his members of his cabinet. I have heard him say, you know, that he has spoken to his cabinet members that they must have a civil conversation and engagement with the representatives in Tobago when they have, you know, they have a mandate to execute projects and so on. But apparently some of the ministers didn't get the memo because they continually disrespect the area reps and the secretaries in Tobago, and then you go now and say that Tobago is responsible. I do not agree that the Prime Minister is part of the problem. And when I say he's part of it, is the way he has engaged the THA, the way he has engaged what we do in Tobago. There's a mentality that they don't have any respect for this group of leaders that is in Tobago. And we will not have that. We will not have that. We have been voted into office to execute a particular mandate and so on. And we respect the office of the Prime Minister. But respect is something that is earned. We are not children. You understand? And you cannot just say whatever you want as if it's a bunch of children you're talking about. We will not have that. So I will say and put it on the record that he is part of the hostility rather. He is a key player in the kind of relationship issues that we have between the both islands.
And the matter of internal self-governance also came up in a meeting last night. And one thing that he noted, there was a letter sent to the Prime Minister, was signed by the Chief Secretary and by Mr. Ho Choi Charles, our first Chief Secretary. And he was stating that there were some things that were in there in terms of, you know, Tobago wanting to have its own taxes and a few other things that, you know, he was not entirely sure about. He had quite a lot of questions. I want you to speak, and then he also made a point that internal self-governance cannot happen unless the Parliament gives it, and for the Parliament to give it, you need the two-thirds majority, which you know.
That's true.
And which means that we need to have the support of the opposition.
I mean, and that's true. I mean, because I didn't really listen to his speech, I don't want to pronounce on what he said because everything has a particular context.
Right.
You know, but suffice it to say that we as an administration are determined to go after this internal self-government and will do all that we can be that we can do all that is humanly possible, it does not mean that because we know that we need buy-in from officials on the other side, that we will be treated as if we are nobody. It does not mean that we must sacrifice our own self-respect as a administration to get that. We will do what needs to be done. We are man enough to, if we have made mistakes and so on, to stand up to those mistakes and so on, and so on. And yes, I think that the relationship needs to improve, but no relationship can work with just one person. There has to be a willingness on the part of all the parties for the relationship to work. You understand? And the what we have seen is a disdain even that is shown by officials from Trinidad to officials in Tobago, and then you want us to now become these, like we are the best good Samaritans and we alone are Samaritans. There must be Samaritans in Trinidad as well, So I think the point that I want to make is we have settled in our mind that this is where we want to go. This is what we want to accomplish for our people. At the same time, though, we must be respected and treated equally. That's all we want. We do not want to impose anything on central government. We do not want to try to take over any area of responsibility that falls under the purview of central government. We have some areas of responsibility, and all we are saying, let us do that and do it according to the law and what the rules say. You understand? And we don't want any kind of interference, you see? And we must be treated as the officials that have been elected to carry out a particular function. That is all that we are saying. And I think that once we can get this thing resolved, it's going to cause an improvement in the relationship. But a lot of people across the waters are bent on treating Tobago and treating Tobago officials as if we don't count. You have seen it. I mean, this is not anything to hide about. Just the way that there is a kind of approach that they have. I mean, taken in consideration, I'm not a carnival man, but I saw clips of the comments of Mr. Peters, and I was like, what is wrong with it? And then in the carnival launch, as he's talking as a nonsense again, trying to compare what happened in Tobago. We're not in competition with Trinidad over no carnival. You understand what I'm saying? They've been doing carnivals for eons of years, and they have their own challenges and so on and whatever. Their product is completely different to what is offered in Tobago. You see? But all that is emblematic of a mentality that some people have, and not all. Some people have in Trinidad, some officials. I will say, just this week, the Minister of Youth and National Service, he is one of those ministers that has always been respectful, always. You understand? And we have a very good working relationship. You understand? And I think that is how the thing is. That is how it is to be. When the minister is coming, the minister indicates he may invite us to whatever, and vice versa. That is how it is supposed to be. We have completely different political philosophies, but when it comes to actually doing the work, there is a kind of respect, a mutual respect that we expect, and to get the work done for the benefit of the people that we are supposed to be doing the work for. And I think if other officials can get that through their head, we'll be able to treat with some of this hostility that is in this space.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pastor Baynes, for being on with us and for sharing your perspectives on what's been happening in Bethel and in Tobago.
Yes.
All right, viewers, don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more coming up for you after this break.
And the vibes is never wrong.